Good evening and welcome to Undaunted, bringing into the news untold stories. I am Star Smart. Let's begin. Well, the fight for the restoration of the statehood of former British Southern Cameroon's Amazonia is a fight, has been said, for all sons and daughters of Amazonia, and there is no room in Amazonia for those partnering with the oppressor against Amazonia. In respect of the ever-present and active Amazonian restoration fighters who have proven their worth in 7 years and counting with a slogan of resilience, no retreat, no surrender till Buea. We've seen this continue, and we saw the resistance of and resilience of not just the ARSs, but also the citizens of Amazonia, as we saw this again in the 25th Christmas Day celebrations that fell on a Monday, having Amazonians celebrate a day prior on Sunday, that is 24th December, in a bid to still respect as well as celebrate the Christmas without interrupting the Monday ghost towns. Well, in recent developments, we yet again see how the La République du Cameroon, who has deceived many Amazonians in many aspects in time past, continue in their ways, as some other Amazonians have fallen for the La République du Cameroon deception to the point of betraying the fight for the protection of the motherland. Well, an ex-combatant and a present tenant of the Bamenda Colonial DDR Center has expressed regrets to have been fooled by the La République du Cameroon colonial forces. Well, we'll find out more about this and other reports in the full briefings of Undaunted tonight. Coming right up after the prime headlines.
Here are the prime headlines for tonight. We'll start with the story of the University of Buea as it keeps exploiting its students. Tonight, on Undaunted, Moja pretends to be an advocate of hate speech. Also tonight, ex-combatant expressed regrets allowing herself to be deceived by La République du Cameroon forces. The ADF forces of Cho Ayaber tortures another civilian in Muyaka local government area. All the African scene, Somaliland defense minister resigns over sea access deal with Ethiopia. Foreign scene, 30 new countries ready to join BRICS in 2024. And in sports, Morocco becomes first side to arrive in Cote d'Ivoire for Total Energies CAF AFCON. Now let's get the news in full briefing. During the holidays, Undaunted had the opportunity to go through the entire speech of the President of La République du Cameroon, President Biya. Well, tomorrow we will give you an overview of President Biya's end of year's address, which is a proof of all the lies that he has told and more lies that he's telling. And just like President Biya, Moja begins the year with lots of uncertainties. But that is what we'll get into the news. Now, let's start tonight with the story of the UBA students. Now, this is a story that is not good to be told, about La Republic du Cameroon running universities in Ambazonia. The universities in Ambazonia are rather exploiting students than doing the needful. Providing certificates to graduated students is the responsibility of a university. Now, these institutions delay the issuing of certificates to compel students to solicit for transcripts for their academic and professional pursuits. For a transcript to be issued, a student has to pay either 2,000 francs CFA for regular or 5,000 francs CFA for express. Unfortunately for the students, and especially those of the University of Buea in particular, when the certificates are out, even after the long delay, the students are still being asked to pay the sum of 2,000 francs FA to have them. This has icked the students who are now having a protest. The question is, why pay for a certificate after paying for study? Well, this is where we'll begin the full briefing of Undaunted tonight. And of course, we are saying welcome to a brand new 2024. Still smart, how are you doing?
Very well on you. Good evening, Amazonians, and welcome to the new year. Well, the students of the University of Buea are up in arms over a newly imposed fee of 2,000 francs CFA, approximately $5, for the collection of their degree certificate. The announcement made public on January 4th, 2024 by Vice Chancellor Professor Ngomo Horace pertains to certificates for graduates from 2019 to 2021. Now, while the communique informs graduates that their certificates are now available for collection at their respective establishments starting January 9th, it also stipulates that students must present a receipt of payment of 2,000 francs CFA from the Receipt Control Office, and this requirement has met with significant backlash from students who perceive it as exploitative. Now, a lot of students are lamenting. They express frustrations that students, after completing clearances and receiving attestations, are still faced with additional fees.
Well, can we not simply have a collection poll for that? This exploitation, at least those who have completed studies, should easily pass and collect their certificates. Now, these and more the student added. This is not the first time that there have been complaints of alleged exploitation from students of the University of Buea, despite its reputation as a renewed and renowned institution. A disconnect seems to exist between their administration and the students' body, which has so far hindered the desired fair and cordial relationship. Now let's head to the Moja report of tonight.
Oh, well, in another development, the popular notorious Moja, popularly Chief Ewume Ekojan, popularly known as Chief Moja, has thrown his weight behind a campaign to eradicate the very issue that he has been seen fueling time and time again. The traditional ruler of Bassa village surprised residents and campaigners alike by actively participating in the launch of Taxi Tales No to Hate, a mobile caravan initiative spearheaded by the Fight Hate Now and Civic Watch Cameroon. The campaign aims to enlist taxi drivers as ambassadors for peace and unity, tackling hate speech as at its roots. Now, Moja's past is checkered with videos promoting harmful rhetoric and inciting violence. His presence at the launch, chanting the campaign's "Now we are one" slogan alongside organizers and residents, sparked a wave of mixed reaction. We had residents say, "I was so happy seeing Chief Moja in the caravan." A resident called Helen said this. Another said, "Let him take the message too and act by example." This is another resident echoing the sentiment, calling it a positive step to see someone known for spreading hate now actively fighting against it. He says Buea will indeed be a town of legendary hospitality.
Moja's participation injects a complex twist in the fight against hate speech in Buea. Whether this marks a genuine shift in Moja's stance or a strategic move remains to be seen. But one thing is certain, his statements should be taken with a pinch of salt, as his involvement has ignited a crucial conversation about accountability, rehabilitation, and the power of collective action in silencing its echo chambers. Moja, who is also a member of La Republique du Cameroon Colonial Elite Force, the Bees, is publicly executed civilians under the guise of fighting against Amazonian Army forces, now known as Amazonian State Army, who have been advocating for an independent state called the Amazonia in Cameroon's English speaking region. In some instances, he was caught on camera calling for non-indigents to leave Buea, particularly those from the restive side of Amazonia.
And on to this very interesting report, the La République du Cameroon, that has been known for deceiving a lot of Amazonians in different ways in time past and even today, has further continued in their acts. Some Amazonians have fallen again for the La République du Cameroon's deception to the point of betraying the fight for the protection of homeland. An ex-combatant and a present tenant of the Bamenda Colonial DDR Center expresses regret to have been fooled by the La République du Cameroon colonial forces. Now, you would want to ask, why would an Amazonia still trust anybody related to La République du Cameroon's colonial government?
Maimonatu Amadou, an ex-combatant and a tenant of the Bamenda Colonial Disarmament, Demobilization and Reintegration DDR, regrets stressing La République du Cameroon's colonial forces. Maimonatu helped the colonial company commander of Ndop Gendarmerie Brigade to kill the foremost ARFs in Buea. Minor Monchu stated that the said Amazonian Restoration Forces, now known as the Amazonian State Army, was his longtime friend before the ongoing war. And when the war started and his friend took up arms to defend Amazonia, Minor Machu was then kidnapped and deceived to disclose the whereabouts of his friend. The colonial company commander of Ndop took him that and told him rather that if he did not show him where his friend was hiding, he would burn down his father's house. Only if he would cooperate, he will make sure he would send him to another town sponsored in school as well. After the operation that led to the killing of his friend, he was abandoned against the promise of the commander. This was what Minor Monatu explained.
Well, the Amazonian State Army of Buea, formerly known as the Amazonian Restoration Forces, after intelligence findings uncovered that Maimunatu was behind the killing of the leader. They arrested her and asked her to join the struggle or they kill her. Now, she joined and has been fighting for 4 years. She is now at the Bamenda Colonial DDR Center pressing for reintegration. Well, what is interesting to note here is behind these yearnings for reintegration lies harrowing stories of how these former combatants ended up at the DDR centers in the first place.
And Cho Ayaber is in the news tonight. After the public execution of two in Guzang, Batibo local government area, and others that we brought to you as exclusive and as a very important report here throughout the month of October and November. While the so-called Amazonian Defense Forces of Choayaba was notorious for kidnappings, collections of ransom, and illegal taxes from innocent Amazonians were articulated. This term in Muyuka, local government area of Fako County, where the criminal gang meted out another inhumane act on a civilian named Ngang Musungang, a council staff of the locality. The ADF criminal gang accused Ngang says you are working with the La Republic of Cameroon forces after he banned him from operating in their market. Well, as you all know, this is not the first time that these Amazonian Defense Forces, led by Cho Ayaba Lucas, have targeted innocent civilians. Well, in recent weeks, these gang committed similar atrocities, including the public execution of two men in Kuzang described as black legs.
Well, this brutal act, devoid of any semblance of justice, exposes a disturbing pattern of disregard for human life and fundamental human rights. The torture inflicted on Ngang Misongong is a stark reminder that the conflict is not just affecting the soldiers on the battlefield, but also affecting ordinary people struggling to make ends meet. His story and that of countless others caught in the crossfire should not be forgotten. This incident is just one of many orchestrated by the so-called Amazonian Defense Forces working together with the colonial La Republic BIRs, the famous Atanga and Boys, and government proxies to tarnish the image of the Amazonian State Army, formerly known as ARF's Amazonian Restoration Forces, who have been waging a meaningful resistance against the occupier and occupational military, the occupying neighboring La Republic forces in defense of homeland. Well, at press time, we couldn't exactly lay hands on the video, sadly. Coming up next. Oh, well, on the African scene, Somaliland's Defense Minister Abdikani Mohamed Atai stepped down in protest because he felt President Musa Bihi Abdi didn't involve the ministers in the deal that let Ethiopia use a port in the breakaway Somalia region. Atai, who hails from Somaliland's Awdal region, where Ethiopia plans to set up a military base, was upset about the lack of consultation. The agreement supposedly grants Ethiopia access to the Red Sea, and some reports even suggest it recognizes Somaliland's independence. Somalia sees it as an aggression and has recalled its ambassador from Addis Ababa. This has led to diplomatic tensions, with Ethiopia's ambassador also returning to Addis Ababa.
While Uganda denies reports of Nigeria rejecting its degrees, the National Council for Higher Education in Uganda is denying allegations that Nigeria might reject their degree certificates due to authenticity concerns. Well, Professor Mary Okwako, the executive director of the institution, clarified that there have been no complaints from Nigeria about the legitimacy of Ugandan academic papers. While investigators complaints related to higher learning institutions and takes appropriate action. Economist Rose Teller warned against obtaining degrees in under 2 months and urged vigilance against substandard courses. The Ministry of Education is refraining from commenting until they receive formal communication.
Well, in Libya, the flooding disaster could have been avoided. This is what experts conclude. Well, the judicial inquiry result revealed that the dams that collapsed were fragile. Libya's Attorney General mentioned that negligence played a significant role in the tragedy, as confirmed by 25 experts which reminds us of the other dam between the Cameroon borders and Nigerian borders, the sad tragedy before. Well, this is also heartbreaking to hear, especially that if recommendations made since 2003 were followed, the disaster could have been avoided. The flooding caused immense damage, claiming the lives of 4,540 people and displacing over 30,000 residents. The UN also emphasized that most of these deaths could have been prevented, and the aftermath of the floods has left critical infrastructure in need of repair, affecting nearly 1 million people. Well, that's about it on the African scene. Coming up next is news across the globe.
For news across the globe, let's start with the BRICS. The BRICS inducted 5 new countries in January 2024, which includes Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Egypt, Iran, and Ethiopia. Well, Argentina is the only country that rejected joining BRICS despite receiving an invitation in August 2023. While BRICS is now a 10-member bloc, a new round of expansion is likely at the 16th summit in Russia-Kazan region. The next BRICS summit will be held in October, and Russia's President Vladimir Putin confirmed that 30 new countries have now expressed their interest to join the alliance. Russia's President Vladimir Putin confirmed in a recent press conference that 30 new countries have formally submitted their applications to join BRICS in 2024. If the bloc approves all the 30 nations' applications, then BRICS could become a 14-member group. That's bigger in terms of financial power and even the GDP, and could compete with the US dollar and other Western allies.
Well, on the United States, House Republicans impeachment to plot to swiftly impeach Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas this year, as key swing district Republicans expressed fresh openness to the idea amid a recent surge of migrant crossings at the southern border. Now, the controversial move to make Mayorkas the first cabinet secretary impeached in nearly 150 years amounts to a shift for the House GOP, which had set its sight on potentially impeaching President Joe Biden in early 2024. But with the Biden probe moving methodically and a number of Republicans still skeptical about impeaching the president, senior Republicans now believe targeting Mayorkas will be an easier lift as the border crisis becomes a defining campaign issue.
Well, still in the U.S., criticisms of U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin is growing after it emerged his deputy was unaware that he was in hospital, despite assuming some of his responsibility. This was not informed until the 4th of January that Mr. Austin was in intensive care 4 days after he entered the hospital. U.S. media reported it globally. Mr. Austin, who is 70 years, resumed his food duties on Friday evening. Well, but questions are swirling around the secrecy of his medical situation. The defense secretary sits just below the president in the chain of command for the U.S. military, and the Pentagon's failure to disclose Mr. Austin's illness has raised concerns about a lack of transparency. For 3 days, senior defense officials and even the White House were not aware of Mr. Austin's hospital's visits.
Oh, well, technology keeps advancing. What is the U.S. doing about technology in the wars around the world? Well, the U.S. is set to deploy a global network of sensors that can detect, track, and help shooting hostile missiles. Hypersonic weapon systems are classified as reaching the speed of Mach 5 or higher. Using the term created for ballistic missiles, it is helpful to group the weapons according to their range when talking about these capabilities. Short range at 1,000 kilometers, medium range at 1,000 to 3,000 kilometers, intermediate range 3,000 to 5,500 kilometers, and intercontinental 5,500 kilometers. Well, the two primary categories of these new weapons are hypersonic boost glide systems and propelled cruise missiles. Propelled cruise missiles are multi-stage rocket-driven vehicles that accelerate to a point at which a sustainer stage powered by a scramjet may take over and complete the mission. Now, hypersonic boost glide systems work by accelerating a glide vehicle to hypersonic speed over several stages, usually utilizing solid rockets, and subsequently the vehicle then glides unpowered when completing its mission.
Meanwhile, Trump wants Georgia election subversion case. He wants it dismissed, arguing he has presidential immunity. Former President Donald Trump is seeking to have the sweeping criminal conspiracy against him in Georgia thrown out by arguing he is protected from prosecution under presidential immunity. Trump's immunity claims in the Georgia case filed on Monday as part of a motion to dismiss state-level criminal charges against the former president. He says they are similar to those argued by his defense team in the federal election subversion case. The indictment in this case charges President Trump for acts that lie at the heart of his official responsibilities as president. The indictment is barred by presidential immunity and should be dismissed with prejudice, the motion filed by Trump's lawyer in the Georgia case. That was what he read. All right, well, that's all for global news. Coming up next is sports news with Gab Ellison.
Latest world sports. Football. Morocco became the first side outside the host nation to arrive in Côte d'Ivoire for the 34th edition of the Total Energies CAF African Cup of Nations when the Atlas Lions landed in Abidjan on Sunday. The FIFA World Cup semi-finalists landed at Felix Houphouët-Boigny Airport in the afternoon amid local traditional drumming and dancing to welcome the side to the host country of the Continental Showpiece event. The plane carrying coach Walid Regragui's side landed in Abidjan at 2 p.m. local time before they were received in Terminal 2 with an impressive cultural ceremony arranged by the local organizing committee of the Total Energies CAF AFCON amid tight security. Atlas Lions striker Yusuf En-Nersri was the first to appear from the aircraft, followed by the PSG star Achraf Hakimi, as the delegation was met on arrival by the Ivorian Minister of Transport Amadou Kone. Mr. Kone, who personally supervised the arrival of this first team for the tournament, was accompanied by the ambassador of the Kingdom of Morocco to Côte d'Ivoire, His Excellency Abdelmalek Katani, some CAF officials and some members of the LOC. Members of the Moroccan community in Abidjan were also present at the airport to welcome their team that reached the last four of the 2024 World Cup in Qatar. The Atlas Lions, who appeared focused, headed straight to the city of San Pedro, where they will be based for their Group F matches against DR Congo, Tanzania, and Zambia. They will have 10 days of acclimatization in the coastal city of San Pedro before their first match on January 17, 2024 against Tanzania at the Laurent Poku Stadium. Their second outing is scheduled against DR Congo on January 21st, followed by the last game against Zambia on January 24th. As a semi-finalist in the last edition of the World Cup in Qatar, Morocco is seen as one of the favorites for the CAF Total Energies African Cup of Nations, Côte d'Ivoire 2023. Their only title success in the competition dates back to 1976. 48 years later, the Atlas Lions are dreaming of taking the trophy home. Meanwhile, host nation Côte d'Ivoire arrived in Abidjan on Sunday morning to continue their preparations for the tournament after beating Sierra Leone 5-1 in a warm-up in the city of San Pedro on Saturday. Basketball. NBA Roundup. LeBron James leads Los Angeles Lakers to win over Los Angeles Clippers. LeBron James top scored with 25 points as the Los Angeles Lakers beat city rivals, the Los Angeles Clippers, 106-103. Anthony Davis added 22 points as the Lakers ended a four-game losing streak. Paul George and Ivica Zubac scored 22 points for the Clippers, who suffered their first defeat in 6 matches. If we could continue to get better with our details, we could be a really good team, said James. Tonight was a good step in the right direction. Elsewhere, Kyrie Irving scored 35 points and Luka Doncic added 34 as the Dallas Mavericks beat Western Conference leaders, the Minnesota Timberwolves, 115-108. The Timberwolves looked on course for the win when an Anthony Edwards basket put them 106-100 ahead with less than 4 minutes remaining. But the Mavericks hit back with 13 unanswered points, including 2 three-pointers from Irving, to edge into a lead, which they never relinquished. I was just letting him cook, Doncic said of Ivan. When he stays aggressive, he's an amazing player. RJ Barrett scored a season-high 37 points as the Toronto Raptors beat the Golden State Warriors 133-118. Stephen Curry scored just 9 points for the Warriors, making only 2 of his 14 shots from the field and missing all 9 of his 3-point attempts. Draymond Green took part in the Warriors pre-game walkthrough as he prepares to return to action following the lifting of his 12-game suspension for striking an opponent. CJ McCollum top scored with 30 points as the New Orleans Pelicans eased to a 133-100 win over the Sacramento Kings, with 7 Pelicans players scoring double figures. Victor Wembanyama scored 24 points in less than 25 minutes on court, but could not prevent the San Antonio Spurs from losing 117-115 to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Jarrett Allen scored 29 points and Caris LeVert added 23 off the bench for the Cavaliers as the Spurs suffered a 5th straight defeat. The Detroit Pistons have now lost 32 of their last 33 games, including their last 18 on the road. After they were beaten 133-114 for the Denver Nuggets, Mikal Bridges scored 42 points for the Brooklyn Nets, but could not prevent a 137-124 overtime defeat by the Portland Trail Blazers. The Orlando Magic also needed overtime to beat the Atlanta Hawks 117-110 in Florida, while the Memphis Grizzlies beat the Phoenix Suns 121-115. Golf. The Century 2024. Chris Kirk secures first PGA Tour win of season. Chris Kirk secured the first win of the 2024 PGA Tour season with victory at the Century in Maui, Hawaii. The 38-year-old American birded the 15th and 17th holes to finish the final round 8 under par on Sunday. Kirk led going into the final round and hit 6 birdies in his first 11 holes before fending off a late surge from compatriot Sahith Theegala on the back 9. The win is the 6th of his career and first since the 2023 Honda Classic. Prior to that victory last February, he had not won on the PGA Tour for 8 years, having taken a leave of absence in 2019 to address mental health and addiction issues. It's 100% the reason why I'm able to do what I do, Kirk said after the win. I've said it a lot, but my PGA Tour career would have been over a while ago had I not gotten sober. In Hawaii, Kirk made just 1 bogey all week to claim $3.6 million of the $20 million purse at the Plantation Course in Kapulua. Tied with Theegala for the lead at the 17th on Sunday, Kirk produced a stunning shot to set up a birdie, going on to finish the week 29 under 263. I'm very proud, very proud of that shot, that I was able to make the right call. Talk about the tough shots to commit to, said Kirk, who is ranked 52 in the world. Jordan Spieth hit an 8 under 65 on Sunday to finish 3rd at 27, while South Korea's Lee Byung-hun finished 4th. Gab Ellison reporting from Dunted, ABC Amba News.
And with that sports report, we've come to the end of Undaunted tonight. But before we go, let's take a look at our major stories.
Well, on Undaunted tonight, we're brought to you the University of Buea as it keeps exploiting its students. And we also brought to you the interesting report of Chief Moja camouflaging to hate speech. Interesting one. We also had the Maimuna ex-combatant expressing regret after allowing herself to be deceived by La Republic forces.
Well, today on Undaunted, we told you that the forces of Cho Ayaber touches another civilian in Moja local government area. On the African scene, Somaliland defense minister resigns over sea access deal with Ethiopia. 30 new countries ready to join BRICS in 2024 was on the global scene. And in sports, we told you that Morocco becomes first side to arrive in Cote d'Ivoire for Total Energies CAF African Championship. And that was it for tonight on Undaunted, bringing into the news on George Stories. On behalf of Star Smart and the entire Undaunted crew, we say thank you for tuning in.
We'll leave you with ABC Amber TV images. Good night and God bless you.